In this video, I'm going to share with you what turned me into a profitable trader. A big problem within the retail space is people are lured in by the Rolexes, the Lamborghinis, the Ferraris, the private jets, fancy meals, and this just isn't the reality of trading because the people that are trying to lure you in with these lifestyle aspects are the same ones that can't trade, but you're trying to learn from those people. So you end up in a world where you're failing, but trying to learn from the same type of people that have also failed. Now, as someone that takes a very opposite approach to that, I don't share my lifestyle, I don't do any of that type of stuff, and I'm very clear about the way I trade. I'm very transparent about that. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what it is I actually do and how I got to this point. So I started out like many of you, and like most retail traders do, I was drawn in by the Lamborghinis and the Rolexes and all the fancy lifestyle stuff. And I was like, you know what? It can't be that hard. Surely, let me have a go. Anyway, I ended up losing thousands and thousands of pounds in the markets trying to do all the technical stuff and all of these patterns and learning and trying and all the different things that you're supposed to do is what I did, and it didn't work. So I was sat thinking to myself, what could work? What is it that people do in the markets that make them money compared to what am I not doing? The thing that kept coming back to me was, well, there's professionals in these markets. These 20-year-olds can't know more than someone working at JP Morgan or someone at Goldman Sachs or wherever else it may be. So what are those guys doing? And it occurred to me, well, they don't sit on the charts and trade candlesticks every day. It's more a case of they have these longer term approaches and they build a trade idea. And then how do they build a trade idea? Well, they go about it by doing what you can see on the screen. You can see all of these data points. Now, these are just news releases. This is barely scratching the surface of fundamentals. This is just, again, the very basics. But if you look here, once you start just layering on, even if it's the basic things, you can start getting a gauge on the markets. So you can see inflation was 2.9. We had a really bad NFP. The dollar started to drop. We had unemployment tick higher at 4.25%. The dollar continued to drop. That labor market was cooling off. That's not a good sign. We were pricing in 50 basis points. The dollar continues to drop. Then inflation actually scales out here, 2.5. That's an okay sign. Market starts to range. We have the basis point cut. Inflation stays the same. Unemployment ticks up. Unemployment ticks down. NFP ticks up. Market starts repricing the Fed rate cut, and it's like this jigsaw puzzle that you can keep putting together. And once you start doing this and your brain adapts from a technical retard retail trader into a more professional fundamental trader, then you can push yourself to this profitability. Now, to actually back this up, what I've got during this period, I flipped bullish on the dollar during this period, and look at what happened to these trades. So you can see here on pound dollar, there's two amazing trades to the downside. And this was just using fundamental analysis mixed with a technical approach. I'm not going to go over the technical approach because I've got videos on that already. You can go and watch them for free. But this is it. It's just watching what's going on in the world. How is these markets moving? What's the next news release? If it's X, what's going to happen? If it's Y, what's going to happen? And if it's Z, what's going to happen? What's the ripple effects going on in the world? And how does the economies function? How do they move? What are the smart people doing? What are these real large money managers looking at? And if you can start to decode it like you can here, then you can start getting somewhat of an edge. Now, I'm not talking about true edge as a completely different topic, but you can get into the markets and start capitalizing on them very easily. So rather than looking at the markets here and saying, oh no, pound dollar's dropped, maybe I need to buy because it's too low now, we've formed maybe a support here, let's go and buy this one and correct this whole move. Sure, maybe you could do that. But if you start looking at the fundamentals behind pound dollar and say, okay, well, I know the dollar's gaining strength. The pound dollar, the pound at the moment, so we've got Bank of England looking to cut rates at the time I'm showing you on the charts here. We could go in for a short position here, and we could capitalize much more by understanding what's going on in the markets compared to just trying to trade these basic technicals. Now, what you've got to understand is that technical analysis is great to see what happened in the past. It's great to find supports, resistance, trend lines. It's great for timing your entries and getting into the market. But actually getting your directional bias, technical analysis doesn't do that. You need to have the fundamental understanding. You need to know, what's the next step. You could buy an amazing support level, But then if you think about it, why is price down at that support? Maybe there's sellers in this market. Why is the sellers in the market? Maybe the support's going to break. Maybe it's because of a central bank divergence. Maybe the labor market's cooling off. Maybe there's risk on sentiment. Maybe there's risk off sentiment. Maybe there's something actually happening in the markets that you need to pay attention to. And that's what I'm trying to drive home to you right now. So this is only a short video. And what I want you to take away from this is just open your mind. I know there'll be people watching this. If you're in my community, you come from, obviously, I'm in your sort of subscribe box or whatever, you've come from one of my links in Discord, then you'll understand what I'm saying. But if you're not in my community, you're not in my sort of circle of people, then more than likely you put too much weight on technical analysis. Now, if it works for you, great. I'm not saying it can't work for anyone. It can work. However, if you're an average retailer and you're still losing, you're still trying to repeat everything and go through all of these guru classes and courses and boot camps and stuff, just stop. Just take a breather and have a look at what's actually going on in the world. Why has gold been rising so much? It's very simple. I'm not going to tell you because you should understand this by now and you should be able to go out and do your own research. It's all over Google why gold's been rising so much. But gold is now dropping. Why would gold be dropping? What's going on with the dollar? Why was the dollar dropping? I mean, I've already got it annotated here for you, but why was the dollar dropping here? You can see these numbers, but why do these numbers matter? Why does it then turn bullish when we get an improvement on these numbers? Again, go and work out what these numbers mean for the dollar and for the US economy. Just to leave the video here, what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is technical analysis isn't the holy grail. It never will be. You can find your FVGs, turtle soups, and whatever else you want to call it. It doesn't matter. You will not find sustainable long-term profitability with this. And when I say never, I'm talking about the general masses. Again, there will always be exceptions. There'll always be outliers that do make money doing it. Just because someone else does it, it doesn't mean you can. And again, really last thing I'm going to leave you off with now is if you learn from someone, make sure they are actually a trader and not a marketer. Because the problem is, again, people are sucked in by the lifestyle, the traveling, the private jets, the Lamborghinis, everything else, and forget that that's not really a trader's lifestyle. Unless you have hundreds of millions in capital, you are not going to have that type of lifestyle. So where do these influencers get all their money from? Well, it's you. It's the courses, it's the ad revenue, it's signals, mentorships, whatever else it is. And don't get me wrong, those things aren't always bad. I'm not shaming people that do that. I sell signals and education, but I'm transparent about that. I am honest about the way I do things, my trading and my services. No issue at all. Ask me anything, happy to answer it. But when people can't show track records, they can't show you substantial proof that that money has come from trading, probably best to stay away from them.